The Power Hour is on the air, live streaming you on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and thank you for joining us this Monday evening. It is great to be back after the bye week. I have had so much going on. Work has been hectic, but I am glad to be here with all of you. It just feels great to finally be back to football, and we've got a win to talk about. So that just sets up everything nicely for the next 4 games down the road. Huge upset. Well, really a huge shutout win over the Jacksonville Jaguars, and we'll definitely break that down tonight, along with some of the other top news and going on in the NFL. But first, let me introduce our guest tonight. You know him from the Titans Time podcast. Always a good friend of the show, always great having him in, and we'll welcome Tyler. Tyler, welcome to the Power Hour.
Glad to be here again. Been a little while, but hey, glad to be back, and especially glad to be talking about a Titans win.
Indeed. It just seems like the last few weeks, there's just a lot of injuries that piled up, and it just started showing out on the field. And you really just kind of got the sense it was like, man, I know Vrabel's done everything he can to fill the roster up, but eventually when you just get to the point when you're playing with your practice squad guys, I mean, something's got to give.
It does, and, even with playing with those practice squad guys, you look at it and at the last 2 games before the Jaguars game, and it's like, man, we could have won those games. Just the turnovers killed us, and then this bye week was, it was just what the doctor ordered, really. Let guys get healthy, rest it up. We're able to get Julio back, get Crookshank back, and then come out in this game and we're the ones forcing the turnovers versus giving them away.
And it definitely feels entirely better that the fact that the 4 turnover margin goes in our favor. Mm-hmm. So looking down the road, especially with the playoff picture, and we'll throw this up real quick before we get to top news so everybody knows what's going on. So hitting our small screens real quick, and we'll break down the quick playoff picture. So here's what we look at right now in the AFC. You have New England, Tennessee, Kansas City all sitting at 9-4. Baltimore losing, going to 8-5, but still holding their lead in the division. So, Tyler, out of all of the 4, who do you feel right now is the most comfortable at the moment?
The most comfortable for winning their division, or
for winning the division.
I honestly think it's kind of a tie between the Titans and Kansas City for winning their division. Kansas City has come back out, and they're firing on all cylinders again. And the Titans set themselves up way too good early in the year that I don't see them losing the division. New England, I feel like, is kind of a toss-up because their next game, whenever they end up playing Buffalo again, more than likely it's not going to be in the crazy wind conditions that they had in Buffalo. So no. Which granted, Patriots may have seen, hey, we can just run the ball down their throats the whole game and only try 3 pass attempts and still beat them. But I think that'll be another tough game, and then I think they also have to go to Miami to play, and that could be a tricky one there.
Indeed, and across the board, I'm just surprised at how competitive the AFC North is right now, with a huge race going on right now with Baltimore, Cleveland, the Cincinnati Bengals, and even the Steelers are still in this thing. So that division, I think, being right now the closest one neck and neck, who do you think might break away, especially with Lamar Jackson potentially might missing a game or 2 with an ankle injury?
Man, that is really tough because it seems like none of these teams truly want to win that division. Every week it's kind of varying. This team takes control and they can run away with it the next week, and they just no, we're going to hand it off to one of the other guys. I think that probably, I think the Bengals end up taking that division. I do, just because if Lamar has to miss a game or two, that's going to knock the Ravens, right off of there. The Steelers, I feel like they are they try to play the comeback football too much.
They do.
And you can only do that so many times and actually win games. And Cleveland, it depends on which team shows up for them, honestly, because it can. I really thought that game against the Ravens that they were going to have a shutout after Lamar went out, and they almost gave that game away. So I think the Bengals end up coming away with that division if Lamar has to miss, 2 games.
And I just brought up the Bengals' remaining 4 games, and this is what they're looking at right now. They'll have to go to Denver. They'll have a home game against the Ravens. They'll be at home against the Chiefs, and then they'll have to travel to Cleveland.
Ooh. I
So looking at
team there.
looking at that might be a little challenging.
Yeah. May have to unlock my answer and change that up.
We might switch it out, but I'm pulling up Cleveland's schedule right now, and we can see what they're going to look like. So their last 4 games, Cleveland will have a home game against the Raiders. They'll have to go to Green Bay. They'll have to go to Pittsburgh. And once again, they'll be at home for the Bengals. So they don't look any better.
What does the Ravens, the rest of their schedule look like? I mean, I know they'll go to. Do they go to Cincinnati? Is that right?
I believe that was right. So, ooh. Oh, man. Get ready for this. The Ravens will be home at Green Bay. They'll be at Cincinnati. They'll be at home with the Rams coming. And then they'll be at home with the Steelers.
Okay, so maybe I don't feel as bad about the Bengals. I mean, all right, so the Steelers, we know that they play the Titans next. What do they look like after the or I may have it here actually. So the Titans, then they go to Kansas City. They go to Cleveland. And then they play the Ravens at home. I really don't know.
This just turned out to be ultimately the hardest division to pin down right now. Because we right now have gone through all these schedules, and none of them look favorable to anybody right now. So, I mean, you could be right with the Bengals. I don't think it's a wrong answer. I just think it's finding the right one.
Yeah, like who is actually going to get hot and stay hot, or at least stay consistent, because that's the biggest thing. Is it seems like all 4 of these teams in that division, they'll come out one week and look just absolutely dominant, and then turn around the next week and they're down 20 to the team that they're playing.
I mean, we could very well see an 8-9 team in this division win the division, and that doesn't seem too far-fetched with what they're going up against.
Right. That is insane. Wow.
So, I think I'll ride with you on the Cincinnati train. I feel a lot more confident with Joe Burrow than I do with Baker Mayfield or even Ben Roethlisberger at this point. And Lamar Jackson, we're still waiting to hear more on the ankle issue, and if it's a high sprain, I definitely see him missing about a week to maybe 2 weeks possibly. But Cincinnati seems like the best bet right now.
Right, and even, like you said, with that ankle for Lamar, like even if he were to only miss 1 week and come back, how good is his mobility going to be? Because, I mean, that's the thing that saves the Ravens' offense quite a bit. I want to give him credit for this year. He's actually been able to, I feel like, make more throws from the pocket and actually last year I was saying the dude cannot throw outside the numbers. Like, you make him throw outside the numbers, and you've got him. And this year, there's been a couple games where I've watched him, and I'm like, okay, he's worked on that a little bit. Like, he's gotten better. But if he's not able, his biggest thing is extending the plays. And if he can't do that, I don't know. Like, he can't stand in the pocket all game long and be that pocket passer.
No, he's had enough film on him where defenses can find him a little more predictable. And if he has to run, he'll run. But on the downside, most teams are going to chase him to the numbers. And there's within the problem. You have him kind of figured out right now, and he just seems to be a one-trick pony. While his throwing game's improved, you're still waiting for him to actually have a huge game, possibly if they do get in the playoffs. And I just don't feel confident enough about him in that situation.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's right where I'm at. And Matt, now that we've went over those schedules, I still can't get over that because I figured one of them would have a schedule that seemed more favorable than the others, and none of them do.
We could see possibly even a 7-10 team sneak into the wild card. So, and that doesn't seem too far-fetched right now, especially with the way the wild card looks. The best wild card team you have right now being the Chargers, and they'll match up against Kansas City this Thursday, which is going to be a very good game. I'm very excited to see how that one will go. But between Indy and Buffalo, looking at the other two wild card spots, Indy's just kind of, we don't know what they are except for the little streak they've been on. And we're going to figure out what team they are with the last 4 games, and Buffalo is just sinking like a rock.
They are. And, the crazy thing is, looking at this playoff picture right now, though, is, of course it's different once the Titans actually are fully healthy. Like, if they're able to get fully healthy before the playoffs, there's really none of these teams that I don't think the Titans can't beat. But I was hoping that Indy would be staying out of the playoffs just because, you know what, FTC. Like, I don't want them to make the playoffs just for that reason. But Buffalo is one of those tricky teams. Like, yes, they've been going downhill, but you look back at that game against the Patriots, they had a chance to win it. Josh Allen just didn't throw to the right guy there at the end. And like you said, the Indy being on the run that they're on, it would be interesting to see a third matchup, like if we had to face them in the playoffs, just because I actually wonder if Frank Wright would stick with running Jonathan Taylor like he has been. Because the games against the Titans, it's like he's scared to run him against the Titans.
And that's a good point. I mean, like you said, both games, they just seemed very fickle about using him in the backfield, and he could have been a difference maker if given the chance.
I mean, up 14-0 the second time we played them, and they're throwing the ball.
It didn't add up at all. And the crazy thing is, Indy could be that team that gets on that hot streak and gets into the playoffs. It's not out of the realm of possibility. But I know I just don't feel confident about Buffalo going forward. And I feel like one of the teams in the hunt on the bottom, they've got a legit shot. You like the teams in the AFC North. Denver's been doing pretty decent. Maybe the schedule will work out fairly for them. And I don't feel confident enough about Vegas or Miami at this point right now. Mm-hmm. So, really, I think in the hunt, you've got 4 legitimate teams that could break through that wild card spot.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Raiders have kind of ran their course for this season. Started out hot, but I don't have confidence in them going forward. Miami, they're a team that, they started out slower and have kind of turned it around, but I don't trust Tua. I mean, I don't think he can lead them on that surge to get into the playoffs. Denver's defense is good. Like I think they could help them either stay in games or win games to get into the wild card picture. And then, like you said, the AFC North is just any of those teams could easily sneak back up into that wild card spot.
And it'll be interesting to see as they go forward, his last 4 games of the season progress. But right now, the AFC is in a tight race, but in the NFC, it's quite a different story. And the division in the NFC, I don't see anything changing. I think the 4 you have right now are going to be the 4 that lock up the division. I don't see anything changing there. The real question is the last spot in the wild card held on to the Washington football team right now, which is kind of basically really a huge tie if you think about it. So you have Washington, you have Minnesota, you have Philadelphia, Atlanta, and the Saints are still in this. So that's going to be the spot I think everybody's going to watch in the NFC. I think the 6 teams you have right now, they're going to get in. I think the Rams get in as a wild card. San Francisco gets in as a wild card. But really, out of all these teams in the hunt, do you feel that Washington holds that position, or do you think one of the bottom 4 takes it?
So, I don't think Atlanta will get in. I can just looking at the teams in the hunt. I'm gonna go ahead and eliminate them from that. The Saints, I think they're gonna drop out too. If they had, if Winston was still healthy, I might give them more of a chance actually, but I think they drop out. The Vikings are the ones that pique my interest. If anyone in the hunt's going to take over that last wild card spot, I think it would be them. But
I've got their schedule up, and here's how it'll go. They've got to play the Bears twice. They've got to play the Packers, and they've got to play the Rams.
Who does Washington have left on them?
Let's see real quick. All right, Washington. I think most of the games that the NFC East teams have are division games. So Washington will play the Eagles at Philadelphia. They'll play at Dallas. They'll play the Eagles again at home, and then they'll play the Giants on the road.
Yeah, I'm going to go Vikings. Even with the schedule that they have to finish it out, I think they're going to sneak in there.
But just for fun, and just to pique some curiosity on the web, let's see what Atlanta's got. I don't know. This is interesting. Atlanta will have to go to the 49ers. They'll have Detroit at home. They'll have to go to Buffalo. And they'll have the Saints at home.
So the crazy thing is, looking at those 3 schedules, I feel like all of those teams could go 2-2 in their final 4 games.
They really could. I mean,
and
it's a split down the middle on some of these.
Right. So, if all of them were to go 2-2, then that would mean Washington would stay in, correct?
That would mean, yes, that'd be it. Which Washington has the benefit of playing all their division games. So the one against Dallas, and it was a close game, but can they beat Dallas on the road?
Right.
I'm pretty confident they can beat the Giants on the road.
Yeah, that one I'm not worried about for them.
And really, it's between Washington and the Eagles right now. because they have two matchups, and the Eagles still being in a hunt. Even if they split that, Philly would still be in pretty good shape to possibly pass Washington if they lose two of their other matchups.
Right. Man, the way some of this is breaking out with the schedules and everything else is just you couldn't write it any better.
I mean, it's been forever since I've actually seen a schedule where all the conference or all the division rivals played at the end of the month.
Yeah, that surprised me.
So I know it makes for better television, especially with Dallas being in the playoffs, but they're going to win the division, so you kind of count them out. So really it's between Washington, Philadelphia, and Minnesota I would put in there. Atlanta's kind of just I'd give a very just shaky no.
Yeah, I mean that. Like I said, just looking at those teams down there. When I see Atlanta, I'm like, I was actually surprised to see that they were 6-7. I'll put it that way, and seeing that they're in the hunt, I'm just like, I don't know how. So that's a team. When I looked at in the hunt and you asked that question, I was like, okay, Atlanta's gone first. I'm not even putting them into consideration. So I don't know.
One playoff spot left in the NFC, and it's the one we can't figure out.
Yeah. All right, come on. Let's lock in a final answer here. Who are you going to go with?
I'll stick with Washington. I think their offense has surprised me the most this season. I think even playing nothing but division rivals, I still feel confident enough that they can beat the Eagles twice, and they could possibly beat Dallas. They'll lose one of those games, but the more likely one I would see would be Dallas or Philadelphia. But like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if they upset Dallas either. So right. I'll stick with Washington.
All right, I'm gonna lock in that Minnesota is gonna end up jumping them. For some reason, I have a feeling about that between Dalvin Cook and Justin Jefferson. I think they end up finding a way to sneak into that last playoff spot.
Now, I'll add a tag to this question. Will this be enough to save Mike Zimmer's job?
Even if they make it, I don't think so. Unless they were to possibly somehow make a deep playoff run. Like if they make, and I'm talking like conference championship run.
Yes, they'd have to go.
That's the only way I could see that helping him out.
Because I think he's had too many chances, and it's been long after that run that they had, what it feels like 4 or 5 years ago. So I think this is it. He either makes it in the playoffs, and if he doesn't, then he gets the axe. So it's no surprise. But you'll go with the Vikings. I will stick with the Washington football team. Those are your playoff pictures. And, of course, you've apparently had some early Christmas gifts coming out because it was a pajama party in the house, apparently.
It was. It was. I'm going to tell you, the funny thing is, so we ordered those from Fanatics, and it said that it had shipped. It was showing, going back to, it was showing out for delivery like last Monday. And it was showing that they were in Chattanooga. And, we're just a couple hours south of Nashville. So we're like, okay, we'll get them in a couple days. Time kept going by. It finally got to, like, Friday of last week. And my wife, she was messaging Fanatics like, hey, it's been 7 days since this shipped out. We haven't got it yet. And, just trying to work with them. They got back to us, said, well, we don't have any more of those sizes in stock. And just instead of asking what we wanted to do, we're like, we're going to go ahead and issue the refund. We're like, okay, well, whatever. So they issued the refund, and it actually went back into our account on Saturday, and we got home from the game yesterday, and these have been delivered. So I was like, hey, I'll take it. They were quick to want to issue the refund instead of just working with us to find out where they were at, and it is what it is.
Hey, you got semi-free pajamas, apparently.
Yeah.
and everybody's happy in the picture. Even the people on the TV are happy in the picture. So
that's right.
It was a good time, so it worked out for y'all.
Very much so. I mean, I'm telling you, they're comfy, too.
They look comfy. I mean, y'all just look just snug as bugs, so... It wasn't worth waiting for Christmas, so you had to break those out, and it's only going to get colder. So there's that was a must-have right now, especially with just so much cold weather.
Well, we hope that it's going to be colder. I mean, looking at the weather for here the rest of the week, it's supposed to be back up in the 70s, and I'm like, what's going on here?
The flu's going on. That's what's happening. Well, all right, everybody, we're going to take a quick 30-second break, and when we come back, we'll break down the news really quickly, and then we'll get to what we all want to get to, the Titans-Jags breakdown. We'll be back in 30 seconds. I'm Michael Bishop with the Power Hour. The Power Hour's on the air, live streaming to you on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop. Thank you for joining us this Monday evening. It's great to be back after the bye week. Joining us tonight is Tyler from Titan Time Podcast. Tyler, always great having you on the show. It's been a long time, but glad to get you back in and get some football down.
Yeah, it's always a fun time, man. And, my brother and I, we're trying to get to where workout times where we can live stream a little bit more. He kind of works for your rival, UPS, so he works nights there, and it's kind of hard to.
Ain't hurting my feelings. Yeah. he's doing the work I don't want, so he can have it.
They can get more of those packages they've been making you deliver, huh?
Yeah, I got done early, so I'm fine with that.
There you go. But we're going to try and start live streaming some more. Hopefully before the end of the season, we're going to have to get you on to break down some games with us.
Definitely, man. I'm all for that. But before we get to the top news, let all the fans know where to find you.
Yeah, just find us on YouTube, Titans Time Podcast. You can find us on several different audio podcast platforms, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Titans Time Podcast on there. Find us on Twitter at Titans_time, Facebook Titans Time, and Instagram Titans Time Podcast.
And while we're throwing plugs out, I'll throw one in for my own. Don't forget to follow me on the Power Hour at the Power Hour 615 on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok, doing my daily TikTok videos and my PowerPoints, which are put on there from Tuesday to Friday. All right, Tyler, we got some top news to jump into, so let's throw it on the little screen and let's get to it. Jumping into our top news, the Power Hour, and getting ready and put some of this news down for these people. First up, Derrick Henry looks to be on the verge of a return, very much possibly before Week 18. From what some reporters are saying, the rehab has gone well, the healing has gone well, and it's all just a matter of time before he gets the okay from the surgeons, the doctors, and the team staff. So how confident do you feel that Tennessee will get him on the field, maybe before the playoffs, just to give him a tweak-up or a tune-up game?
I'm confident. I'm extremely confident that he would be ready to go. I mean, whenever he first had surgery, I'm pretty sure every Tennessee fan they know what Henry's work ethic is and how he does everything he possibly can to take care of his body. So I don't think it's really a surprise to any of us that the doctors or the reports are, he's healing better than expected. Like that's just what this guy does. He's superhuman or not human. I don't know. And I think my only thing is, do you want to put him out there? Because I think the reports I was seeing was like week 18 is when he could come back if they need him to. The only way I would want him out there is if they needed to win that game to win the division, or if it's win that game and you get the number 1 seed with the bye week. And but it's that tough line to walk, because you're like, do you want him to get out there and get a couple of carries just to get used to getting hit again, cut on it some, and just knock the rust off a little bit?
And that is the $1 million question. Is it worth putting him out there in a final regular, possibly meaningless game at the end of the season? But like you said, there are possibilities where it could be a meaningful game. Mm-hmm. But I know we're all going to have to wait and see as this goes, but it's very encouraging news, especially knowing that our playoff success and our playoff lockup is basically at 98 and 99% respectively. So I do see Derrick Henry possibly maybe getting a few runs, but maybe they'll get him some more practice work. That might be a better option, especially knowing Vrabel runs these practices pretty physically. So that wouldn't be a bad option instead of putting him in a game situation. But going forward, we'll just wait and see. But encouraging news, seeing the King have a possible return by week 18. Then up next, Urban Meyer continues to just amaze me in every which worst way possible. And it's already been said that the owner seems to be sticking with him for 2022 next season. Does this seem like this is something that would be for the wise going forward in a long-term stance with Urban Meyer and the Jaguars?
If you like the Jaguars and actually want them to do good, then no, this is not wise. Like, I would have him out the door today. But as a Titans fan, looking at all the dysfunction going on down there, I'm kind of saying sign this man to a lifetime contract, because then I'm going to look forward to playing the Jaguars even more twice a year because they're going to be a dumpster fire every year. But even just from a non-football perspective, just as human beings, I'm like, no, get this guy, get him out of there. Like, he's not cut out to coach this team or any NFL team.
And that's what it boils down to. It's another failed college coach experiment. And the one thing I think that all the college coaches have in common that couldn't translate over to the NFL was to build on some sort of foundation and build a culture in the locker room. You know, that's why Steve Spurrier didn't do it. That's why Bobby Petrino didn't do it. That's why Nick Saban couldn't do it. You're not going to be able to talk to these guys like you do college kids. These are grown men. And Urban Meyer just does not realize that. So, going forward, do you feel, even if he leaves the NFL, that is there a college team out there that would want to take a chance on him, even with all the baggage that he has?
Probably. There would probably be a team out there that would say, yeah, let's bring him in. He's won national championships. You know, he's proved that he can win at the college level. But like you said, there's a lot of baggage there, and you have to know that if you bring him in, if things start going a little bit sideways, he may cut out on you. for some reason. So,
and here's where I just take the other road completely. I just feel, even with any team out there that would want him, he's left 2 programs. He left Florida, and then he left Ohio State in worse shape than he found them. And yes, they're doing fine as far as recruiting and everything. Nothing changed about that. But the fact is, Urban Meyer is just one of those dudes where it's like he has to have power, and he misuses it. And there's a reason why him and Mike Vrabel don't see eye to eye. Right. There's a reason why Mike Vrabel left Ohio State. There's stories that went around that apparently Urban Meyer and Mike Vrabel about came to blows. I think it was the Michigan State game. So, if Urban Meyer wants to do anything with football, I would suggest television, and I don't even know if they'd want him either.
No, I wouldn't think so. But, yeah, that's, you make great points there. Do I think that he should be a college coach or that any college should give him a chance if he, if the Jags get rid of him? No, I don't think so. But I do think that, like I said, there would probably be a college out there that would be like, okay, he's won national championships. Let's give him a chance and see if he can get us there, and maybe get us one, and then, I still don't think he should though. Like if the Jaguars let him go, just let this guy go home and sit on his couch or go to his bar, wherever he wants to go to.
He can go wherever he wants. I mean, honestly. And I read about something about this earlier, and this is kind of funny. He used 2 different kind of things at Florida and Ohio State. One was called the Circle of Trust, I believe, at Florida. And then when he went to Ohio State, he used the Brotherhood of Trust. So, we all know how trustful Urban Meyer is, especially when it comes to telling the truth. I think the article that I read said Urban Meyer doesn't lie. He just likes admitting facts that he doesn't like. So, if any colleges out there, I will just say, buyer beware. He's burned out in spectacular fashion with 2 programs. I wouldn't if I were you, but you're not me, and I'm not you. But moving on to a coach that's a little more likable, and I think actually has a future in football, Joe Brady. Unfortunately, during the bye, Joe Brady was let go from the Carolina Panthers. And I think this was a little surprising move, especially I don't think him and Cam Newton were going to get along anyway. And it just seemed like just a mismatch just from personalities from the head coach and Brady himself. But there are people out there that see him having another opportunity in the NFL, which there are a lot of NFL teams interested. So, Tyler, which NFL team do you think would be the best fit for Joe Brady going forward?
I'm going to be honest with you. Because I haven't watched many Panthers games or, really read up on the teams that would be interested in him. So, I don't want to give a bad opinion here or an opinion that's not backed by some research. So, who are some of the teams that would possibly be interested in him?
Well, I don't know any of the teams that have been named for sure, but I came up with 3 teams I think would fit. He would fit very well. And one of them, he would have to be the quarterback coach. And the first one I'll go with would be the Cincinnati Bengals. Reunite him with Joe Burrow. I think right there, you've got a good fit.
Yeah. I could, just from hearing that, reuniting him with Joe Burrow. I mean, we've seen what's happened with Joe Burrow when you reunite him with one of his targets. And reunite him with Joe Brady as his quarterback coach. That, like you said, that could probably be a very good fit.
Now, the next one, and this just depends on what happens with the coaching situation, but I still think it's a good fit, I think the Jacksonville Jaguars would be a perfect fit for him. He does well with young quarterbacks. He likes teaching, and Trevor Lawrence has a lot of upside, and that would be like the best way to get him going.
Okay, so stay away from Jacksonville. Yeah. Just let's go ahead and X that off of his list there. That way,
I got to give honest opinions, but
yeah,
it is what it is. We'll just
honest opinion as a Titans fan. We don't need. I mean, obviously, want success for players going into the league and everything, but when they're in the same division as the Titans, let's not get too much success. Andrew Luck and Manning kind of ruined that for me a little bit.
That's fair. And the last one would be the Minnesota Vikings. I think you put him with Kirk Cousins. He's an experienced thrower. He likes throwing in the pocket. Joe Brady likes working with pocket passing quarterbacks. I think that's the guy that's going to move them possibly to the next level. If they could get a decent defense to help him out. Or a kicking game.
Yeah. I mean, couldn't make them any worse, right?
No. I mean, you could try, but I think those would be the best fits for Joe Brady. A guy that's got a lot of potential, and I think will have another NFL job really soon. But moving on to our next story, and we've talked about this earlier, so we won't spend a lot of time on it. Is it possible for Lamar Jackson to save Baltimore's season, especially knowing he's got an undisclosed injury and he may be out maybe a week or two?
If he's out 2 weeks and comes back 100% after being out 2 weeks, then yeah, I could see him saving the season and getting them in the playoff picture if they've fallen out of it. If he comes back after a week and he can't move around like that good at all and extend plays, then I could see teams doing whatever they can to get to him in the pocket and just wear him out all day long. And at that point, you're possibly looking at a re-injury risk. And I think that if they rush him back too soon, I think their season goes down. But if they actually give him, like if he needs 2 weeks to heal up, give him those 2 weeks and let him come back and be the athlete that he is. Because that's what wins games for them is his mobility and being able to extend plays and drives.
Ravens' season is on the brink, and it all depends on how Jackson can get back and if he can get back. And finally, we've got a Monday night game, 8:15 on ESPN. It'll be the LA Rams against the Arizona Cardinals. Both teams are playoff contenders, and this one could possibly be an even potential playoff matchup down the road. So, Tyler, who do you like in this one?
So, I'm going to be a little bit biased because in one of the fantasy leagues that I'm in, the guy has Matthew Stafford, Sony Michel, and the Rams kicker. So, I need to see the Arizona Cardinals defense that the Titans saw in week 1 to make sure that those guys do not have a good day at all. I need the Cardinals to just handle business. And if I'm remembering correctly, for teams with winning records, the Rams have not fared well against them this year, correct?
That's correct.
So the Cardinals, top spot in the NFC right now, I think they will handle business tonight.
And there's no argument for me. I feel the Cardinals have been on a roll, even when they've been injured. I just don't see anything stopping them right now except for themselves. So I'll go with the Cardinals. I'll say they get it by a touchdown. Seems like a safe bet right there. No problem. But pretty good matchup, but I do see these teams meeting each other down the road in the playoffs. And the crazy thing is, it might even be possibly in an NFC championship matchup. It's saying a lot, but it could happen.
Yeah, it very well could. I mean, my brother and I both said before the season started that we thought, as far as divisions go, the best all-around division with all the teams was the NFC West. And, of course, you have the Seahawks who have struggled this year, but Russell Wilson went down through part of the year. That greatly impacted them. And I could see those teams, like you said, meeting up in the NFC Championship.
I mean, one of them's going to have to go to Tom Brady, but it's not out of the possibility. Crazier things have happened in the NFL, so we'll see as it goes along. But I won't lose sleep if it happens or if it doesn't happen. So.
Nope.
All right, guys, we'll take a quick 30-second break, and when we come back, we're going to do what you want to see. Titans and the Jags breakdown. We'll show you what happened there and what we liked, what we didn't like, and everything in between. I'm Michael Bishop with the Power Hour. Back in 30. The Power Hour's on the air, live streaming you on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and thank you for joining me this Monday evening. Joining me tonight with the Titan Times podcast is our good friend Tyler. It's always great having you in, buddy. We've had a lot of fun talking football tonight, and we haven't even gotten to the meat of the discussion yet, so I'm finally glad, and I know everybody else is glad out there, that we're actually going to get to what we've been wanting to talk about, starting out with the Titans and the Jags. What a game that was to bounce back after just 2 disappointing games of injuries. Let's go ahead and hit the little screen and let's get to work. Starting out, it was a shutout, 20-0. The boys looked good, and all they had to do was handle business.
You and me, right now, we're having it out. Let's go. Come on, come on.
I mean, really, that could have just been like every bit of what happened yesterday. I couldn't have found anything better. So there you go. That was practically the game.
It's like you were right there next to me in the stands.
I mean, they basically took their lunch money and just beat them down. That's all it was. Oh. Thank you very much, Gary, though.
That was pretty much the tone that the Titans defense set from the Jaguars' very first possession. Because the first play of the game, Danico Autry gets back there and sacks Trevor Lawrence. And then just a couple of plays later, you have Harold Landry and Rashawn Evans getting to James Robinson in the backfield on a handoff. Like, they set that tone early and just pretty much made sure the Jaguars knew you're not getting anything easy today.
And as great as the defensive front was, you have to show a lot of love for the defensive backfield. 4 interceptions, flipping the tide where it seemed like the last couple of weeks Tennessee couldn't do nothing but give the ball away. Instead of this time, they took the ball away. And I had a hard time picking just a player of the game besides the Titans defense. But to me, all 4 guys that contributed an interception, you had Rashawn Evans, Derek Roberson, Christian Fulton, and Skirine, were all big contributors in the defensive backfield. It really just felt good to see the defense just put pressure on the quarterback and just force necessary turnovers, especially in a very short-scored game.
Yeah, the interceptions. You have the Rashawn Evans one. That was one where the Jaguars kind of had what has been happening to the Titans over part of the year. Tannehill, some of his interceptions have just went right through his receiver's hands, and that's what happens on Evans' interception. And he made the most of his opportunity. The second interception was probably my favorite, and I think it was Jayon Brown faking the blitz.
Right. That was a good one.
He lined up right over the right tackle and engaged with him just long enough to let Ola get, going for a free shot on Trevor Lawrence. And Lawrence never seen Jayon back out, and just an incredible catch to get that interception. And the other two, it was just, at that point, Trevor Lawrence was trying to force the ball down the field, and it usually never works out when you try and do that.
No.
My biggest thing is I just hate that the Titans weren't able to really capitalize off of those interceptions.
And that was a downer. You just really felt like the defense continued to give gifts to the offense, but they just couldn't do anything with it. And I know there was just signs of rust and just guys kind of getting back in the swing of things, but you got to capitalize on that, and it makes every little bit of difference getting points. And you can see right here, I mean, the Titans once again dominated in total plays. Jacksonville barely half of the game. And it just keeps showing the consistency Tennessee has at getting a lot of plays on the field, but they need to capitalize on that. Even throughout the entire game, nobody scored a touchdown throwing. Everything was all about rushing. And the little gray one right there is what gets my attention right there. The fact that Jacksonville literally couldn't do anything on the ground.
Yes, I loved seeing that. And, not to take anything away from the Titans' defense here, I'm wanting to see. Yeah, the Jaguars only ran the ball 8 times as well. So they averaged 1 yard per carry. And, the defense was just Big Jeff. I know one play sticks out in my mind. I think it was the Carlos Hyde run. Jeffrey Simmons just pushed the guard that was on him back into Hyde to try and make him cut it back inside, and there was no running room for the Jaguars. And the only way they could get running room was if they held, and the play come right back. So I loved seeing that domination by our defense, especially, against the team trying to run the ball.
And I agree with that. I mean, it all starts with the defensive front making that kind of adjustment and really just getting after the offense. And you just saw what they can do when they get together and they handle business, especially when the offense has just been so stagnant the last few weeks. It just feels like since the gauntlet ended that you've seen a team that's exhausted, depleted, and really just trying to look for anything and a little energy just to try and refresh themselves. And I know people have been getting on Ryan Tannehill, and it was a much better game that he had today. There's no touchdowns, but there's no interceptions either. That's consistency enough to make a difference. And it's hard seeing people say that he's not going to be that guy that can be a game leader or a game changer, which he never had to be. He's just unfortunately been put in the position to be that guy because we are missing a huge piece of our offense. and other guys just seem to fall away as weeks progressed. So I guess the best question to ask for that is, going forward, especially knowing that we're going to have guys returning, is it going to be detrimental to the success of the team, especially make a postseason run, that they utilize these guys as much as possible, despite the fact that they could possibly be re-injured? And I know that's a loaded question, but
So, I think that going forward, as these guys start to come back, we've seen it with Julio this week. He comes back, a weapon for Tannehill, and it's not like they asked him to be out there for 100% of the offensive snaps.
no. They were very gingerly with him.
Yes, they put him out there in situations where they thought that they needed him, and they kind of switched it up. There were times where he would be in on first and second down and off on third down, and then times where he would be out first and second and come in on third down. And I think that's the way to handle these guys when they start coming back. If you're getting through the game without having them out there for every play, then let them still kind of get that rest so that you're not asking them to overexert or go too hard and possibly get re-injured. And then when the playoffs get here, that's when you say, okay, we're taking the leash off. Go do your thing. Like, just make it to the playoffs as healthy as you can be. Because I've been telling several people that's going to be the biggest difference is the Titans are getting back healthy really at the right time.
And I agree with that. I mean, they did start out like a white fire and it simmered down, which it was bound to happen. They had to play a tough 5 stretch of games and lost a lot of key guys going forward. I mean, as you can see of the receiver board right here, your top 4 receivers were averaging about maybe 3 or 4 catches and weren't even getting over 50 yards. So there's been a lot of ball distribution. But at the same time, it's like, going forward, you got to be a little more open with the playbook. And that's one thing I'm really hoping that Todd Downing does. And I think it's not out of the possibility that he can't do it. I really think you just plan in a regular season, especially when you know you're matching up against some teams. You don't give away everything.
Right. Yeah, that was one of my other biggest takeaways from this game is aside from the first drive and, a couple other drives here and there throughout the game, when the Titans would get stuff rolling, for the most part, their offensive play calling just seemed bland. And a lot of that was after they got the turnovers that they forced. And, you would like to see them go down and capitalize on all of those turnovers and the score be, like 35-0 versus 20-0. But instead, it was like they were playing conservative. And at the same time, they had some shots called down the field or longer developing routes down the field. And Tannehill didn't have time. Like, he had pressure in his face.
That was another issue.
Yeah, like, what do you do at that point? Because if you keep having him hold on to the ball longer, you risk it being like the first couple of weeks where teams were just getting to him like crazy and just pummeling him, just knocking him into the ground. So I don't know what that balance is right now.
Well, the biggest balance right now would have to be the offensive line trying to keep our quarterback balanced right up. And that just seems to be the problem going forward once again. And Lewis Chesney basically just says, I disagree, push the pedal to the metal. Other teams aren't relaxing, no risk, no Super Bowl. And here's my thing on that. Other teams haven't had to deal with what we've dealt with. They haven't had to dress about 87 different players. So it's not about pedal to the metal right now. We're at the point where it's like, we're going to make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
We're more than likely going to win the division. We very much should win the division. That's the thing here. But we're at the point right now. This team could either go one of two ways. They can go 13-4, or they can go 9-8.
Mm-hmm.
So every game matters. But at the same time, every team's different.
Well, and the other team's pushing the pedal to the metal and, just going all out. Like you said, they're not dealing with the injuries that the Titans have been. And the injuries that the Titans have had, specifically like the hamstring injuries, the hamstring is so easy to retweak that if you put these guys back out there and push the pedal to the metal and cause them to overdo it and they hurt their hamstring again, then they either have to go back on IR and you lose them for the rest of the year, or if you don't put them on IR and just have them sitting out, they're still out 2 to 3 weeks trying to heal back up. Like, the most important thing is going to be, like you said, we're going to make the playoffs. More than likely going to win the division. Let's get there as healthy as we can. Not show these other teams what exactly our offense is going to look like at full power, and then run through them.
Exactly. I don't feel you have to show your whole hand right here. For the best thing the Titans can do going forward, play what we can and do what we can to win the games. And whatever happens is going to happen. But don't try and do too much, and don't try and overexert yourself. But as on and off as the offense has been, the defense has been phenomenal. And we'll get right there with the defense, seeing some of the stats right there. And Rashaan Evans continues to surprise me after just such a lackluster 4 games that he had at the beginning of the season. Do you think this might be enough to actually get teams to notice him, or maybe even get Tennessee to possibly give him maybe an extension and keep him around for maybe another year?
I think it'll be enough to get teams to notice him. I don't know that Tennessee brings him back next year, though. Going forward, I like having David Long Jr. I feel like Monty Rice, before he got hurt, was starting to come into his own a little bit. And Zach Cunningham. I mean, essentially, unless
you think he's a long term?
Yeah, unless I mean, you don't owe him anything for next year as long as he doesn't get injured.
That's true.
Why not ride with him and see how he does? So I think Evans is gone. But he could be making a case for other teams to maybe open up that pocketbook.
If anybody wants him, I mean, he could be worth the risk, but he does come with risk. And moving down the line, you see just everyone else that's contributed. Harold Landry getting his 11th sack of the season, continuing to put in a huge Pro Bowl nod right there. Jeffrey Simmons not getting a sack, but being disruptive. And that's what we need. And that's what this defensive line has lacked for a better part of the last 2 years. So, really, I'm just very impressed with the way they continue to fight and they continue to handle business. Do you feel that this defense has not reached their full potential yet? Looking that we're going to get to the playoffs soon.
Yeah, I think that they can do even more than what we've been seeing because, again, talking about the injuries, we've had it's been a rotation on defense too. Haven't got to see them really at all the way full strength. And that's kind of scary because
It is.
we get Bud Dupree back. This offensive front is, we're back to having good depth at our edge rushers. And I'm just, again, I'll say, I think the Titans are getting healthy or back healthy at the right time. And I think that's going to be a game changer.
That's really the big game changer. And I really feel Bud Dupree just doesn't get a lot of credit that he deserves. He may not have the stats that would back up what he's done, but his presence on the field is a lot different than what we've had last year. You've got a guy that is being double teamed and a guy that's being disruptive. He may not be getting the numbers, but he's really helped make a difference and helped elevate this defensive line.
Well, it's just like what you said with Simmons this game. Simmons didn't get a sack, but the pressure that he caused up the middle and how he disrupted plays, like that's, you put Bud Dupree out there, then you have two guys that are doing that. Like, yes, they may not get the sack, but they're opening things up for other guys like Harold Landry and Danico Autry. I mean, it's making these other guys' jobs so much easier because they do just have to beat that one man.
And we'll just see if they can continue this momentum going forward, especially with the next 4 games. And a very, very physical game against the Pittsburgh Steelers coming up. And, of course, the tweet of the night, and this was one of my favorites yesterday, coming from the Tennessee Titans Twitter account, saying, with this win today, GM John Robinson becomes the only Titans-Oilers general manager in franchise history to oversee 6 consecutive winning seasons in his first 6 years on the job, breaking the record held by Mike Hovack from 89 to 93. And that right there just speaks so much volume on how far this team has come in literally the last 6 years. We may not have the results we want, but I guarantee you there's a lot of teams out there that would want this kind of success.
Exactly. And, it just makes me think back to off-season stuff and people being mad at J-Rob for drafts and everything else. And, fire J-Rob. He's missing on these draft picks. But you look at this and 6 consecutive winning seasons in his first 6 years on the job. Like, why would you want to get rid of that? Why would you want to get rid of him?
I wouldn't.
It doesn't make sense to me. Like, you're not always going to hit on draft picks. Like, you can't control people's personalities. You can look at the talent that they have and know that if they come in with the right work ethic, that this guy can be a difference maker for our team. Like, you can't really blame him too much on that for some picks not working out. And, injuries, they happen. They're a part of sports. Like, I know it sucks that Farley, first-round pick, he's out with the injury. But let's actually give him a chance to come back and be healthy and see what J-Rob possibly got us there. But you can't argue with 6 winning seasons in 6 years.
Especially going back to those dark, dark days of the post-Mike Reinfeld and Rustin Webster era. Just so god-awful. Just so awful.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we've got our power play of the night. This, to me, was the breaking game point.
32 seconds left in the quarter.
The interception right here, like we were talking about earlier. Jayon Brown getting that pick, killing that drive for Jacksonville. And it really felt like that was the nail in the coffin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so. I agree. That was because I believe that was the drive where Jacksonville had just hit on that deep shot down the field. And you're thinking, okay, they're fixing to they're getting down there in the red zone. They're fixing to at least maybe put 3 on the board. And like that defensive scheme right there was just great. Great timing to call that. Get in, make the rookie quarterback make a quick decision. And Jayon was able to, like I said, just a crazy catch.
And set up basically the precipice. The Titans handle another division foe, Jacksonville, who's been put to rest for the rest of the year. So it continues on now. The Tennessee focuses and starts their preparation for Pittsburgh. So, Tyler, for this game, and I know a lot of people are looking ahead, especially to the Patriots and the Colts game. So, to me, I feel that we have to handle our business and not worry about what everyone else is doing. Of course, I know everybody wants the number 1 seed, and I know they want to win the division as well. But we can't control the things that aren't in our hands.
Right.
We can only work with what we have. Whatever New England's going to do, they're going to do. So, what's your take on that?
Well, like you said, control what we can control and handle our business. As far as winning the division, as long as we handle our business and keep winning, it doesn't matter what happens in the New England and Colts game. As far as the Colts trying to gain ground if they win. Just go into each week and handle business. And like you said, you can't control the outside variables. This team can control what they do out on the field, though.
And that's what matters. And it's crazy to me to see everybody trying to just, who should we root for? Should we root for the Patriots? Should we root for the Colts? What does it matter? I mean, it really doesn't matter. You can root for whoever you want, but at the end of the day, I'm just going to tell you right now, whatever's going to happen is going to happen.
Right.
I've never been one to just root for a team just for any kind of interest for my team to have success. I'm going to let you in on a secret, kids. You're going to set yourself up for heartbreak. Don't do it.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of went back and forth on that Colts and Patriots game. And, looking at things, and the way that I'm looking at it is I'm not really pulling for either team. I look at the situation of what happens as long as the Titans handle their business.
Hell, they can tie for all I care.
Yeah, if the Patriots win and the Titans win, then I'm trying to remember if that locks up the division for the Titans or if that knocks it down to 1.
I know if the Patriots win and the Titans win, then we win the division.
Okay.
If Indy wins, then we get the number 1 seed back.
Right, as long as we win our game. So that's the way that I've been approaching it, is as long as we handle our business, we're going to see one of these 2 outcomes. Either we're going to be the division champs after this next week, or we're going to be back in the number 1 seed. But either way, what it comes down to is us handling our business against the Steelers.
And that's what matters. It doesn't matter what Indy does. It doesn't matter what the Patriots do. Tennessee has to win. That's the bottom line. It's like I was telling you earlier. They can go 13-4 or they can go 9-8. That's up to them.
Right.
But in the long term of things, don't set yourself up for success through other people's actions. You're going to let yourself down on this. Believe me. How many games have we gone in knowing that we had to win and we flopped? Mm-hmm. Last year when we went to Green Bay, we could have had the division there. Could have locked it up in Green Bay. We all know what happened there. We got punched in the mouth.
About it.
Yeah, we got punched in the mouth and reality set in. So, and I'll even remind you on this. This is a Steelers team that has a chance to get in the playoffs. And they play well at home. And we have not done well on the road in Pittsburgh.
So and they're not a team that you can get a lead on and just get comfortable or what's the word I'm looking for?
Complacent.
Conservative. Yeah,
There you
you
go.
can't get conservative with your play calling if you get up on them because they've proved that they can come back and be in the game and have a chance to win it. Like you don't give them that chance.
Even without T.J. Watt, they still got a very good defense. That's something you can't overlook. And Ben Roethlisberger isn't the Ben Roethlisberger of 4 or 5 years ago. This is just a guy that's playing to just finish out his career. But I guarantee you, if he can get a chance to get in the playoffs, he's going to throw at us whatever he can throw at us.
Oh yeah, I mean the main thing I guess we can hope for is that his young receivers still continue to make very stupid, irrational mistakes.
And I feel that's a strength Tennessee can capitalize on, just like they did with Jacksonville this week. There's turmoil in the locker room. There's uncertainty with the coaching staff. Mike Tomlin might not even be with the Steelers next year, so he's having to worry about that. Take advantage of this. Don't worry about New England. Don't worry about Indy. There's turmoil going on in Pittsburgh, and that's where Tennessee has to have their focus.
Isn't that crazy to think about that Tomlin, and like Mike Tomlin could be gone from the Steelers next year. Like, this is potentially his first losing season.
And that's shocking.
Like, why would you get rid of him?
There's many a team that would jump on him if that was the case. Many a team that would jump on him. But if the Steelers want to go another direction, I mean, I can understand at some point you get tired of dealing with a guy that just isn't giving you the results. I mean, the Bengals gave Marvin Lewis 15 years, and he never could do anything. So it's a business. And if you don't produce, they're going to find somebody that will. But at the same time, there's a lot of teams out there that would take a shot at Mike Tomlin.
Yeah.
Well, Tyler, before we close out the show, we got to have a prediction for the game. And it's going to be a rough game on the road at Pittsburgh. Weather's going to be a little iffy, but we'll see as that goes. So, who do you like in this one?
I think that the Titans will go in and take care of business. I know that they've opened up as favorites in this game, but I think they also know that they haven't had much success when going to Pittsburgh to play, and they may look at the adversity of that and let that kind of fuel the team for this week. And with how this pass rush is looking right now, and our secondary playing better this year, I know when we played them last year, that was my biggest thing, is they're going to take advantage of getting the ball out quick because our corners are playing so far off. And then corners would come up to make the tackles and just miss the tackles. This year, that's not the case. Our corners can come up and tackle. You know, they're not really missing them. And I think that the pass rush can get home. I would love to see Bud Dupree out there. Like, get him activated this week, and let's see him against his old team. And I think the Titans find a way to pull out the win in Pittsburgh.
And I think the big difference here in this game, it's going to be who's going to be able to run the ball effectively. Mm-hmm. I feel both defenses are going to keep both quarterbacks kind of at bay. So one of these teams is going to have to let loose their runner. And the big question is, can Deontay Foreman be the guy to handle the load and carry Tennessee to that win? And I think that's going to be the difference here. I think both defenses keep it a low-scoring game. I think you're going to see a lot of running. I think the quarterbacks are going to struggle. I think you're going to see a lot of turnovers on both sides. But I feel confident enough that this is a game that's going to go to overtime, but Tennessee will win it with a field goal. I'll give Tennessee the win 13-10 in overtime.
Oh, wow. 13-10 in overtime. Let's see. I'll put a score on mine. I think there's going to be a little bit more scoring than that. I'm going to go Tennessee 27, Pittsburgh 21.
So we'll see a little bit more action.
Yeah, I'm just kind of thinking back to a couple of Pittsburgh's last games and everything, and I'd like to see Tannehill run more this game. I think that could be. I think that could be a difference maker too.
It could, but I'm really on the fence about that one.
Right.
we don't need to lose him, especially so close to the playoffs.
Well, as long as he's smart about it, like how he took off up, he moved up the pocket against the Jaguars, took off up the field and slid, versus trying to get extra yards. If he's smart about it like that, that's the running that I would want to see. Just because it gets that defense thinking about it a little bit more. Don't go out there and try and be Lamar and run on them like that. But extend plays with your legs. He can make plays with his legs.
As long as he doesn't roll his leg doing a Tanner roll, I'm fine with that. All right, guys. That's our breakdown. That's our show. I want to thank Tyler from Titans Time Podcast for joining us tonight. It's awesome getting you in here and talking football. We've had a great time tonight. Let the folks know where to find you at.
Yeah, find us on YouTube, Titans Time Podcast. Go subscribe. We really appreciate that. You can find us, if you want to listen to the audio version, several different platforms: Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Just type in Titans Time Podcast. Find us on Twitter at Titans_time, Instagram Titans Time Podcast, and Facebook Titans Time.
And any chance you got any gear?
Oh yeah, we got. As you can kind of see the shirt here, I got a little hoodie on over it. Go check out our merch. We got hoodies. If you're in Tennessee, again, I kind of not feeling like hoodie weather at the end of this week, but we got hoodies, t-shirts, long sleeve shirts, all kinds of stuff. All you have to do is go to titans-time.myshopify.com/collections/all.
Got to get you to shout out the merch.
Yeah, that's right.
You're hiding the goods. Got to get it out there. And don't forget, guys, if you're trying to find me, I'm at the Power Hour 615 on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok. Catch me there. Follow me, like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more content. And if you love the show, help it grow. Keep following us for new content daily. So, Tyler, once again, thank you for joining the show tonight. It's great having you on, and we have definitely got to get you back in for the playoffs for some really good insight.
Hey, sounds good to me. I look forward to coming on every time you ask me, and I really appreciate it.
We appreciate you being here, buddy. And everybody, I want to wish you a good night tonight. Make sure you have a happy holidays. We will be back next week. So please, have a good night, take care, and tighten up. See you then. Thank you for watching the Power Hour. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more content. And you can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok at the Power Hour 615.